Hello and welcome to another software development tutorial. Today the topic is a bit more generic than usual. We're not looking at a specific technology. Instead, I want to share how to quickly learn new programming languages and become productive. With quick, I mean within a weekend, which is usually the time frame I have when I do coding for my private projects and want to get something done. The approach I share is my personal approach. You might want to adapt it a bit to suit your way of learning, but I'm convinced you'll get some inspiration from this video. I also want to add here that there is a requirement to my approach. You should already have a good understanding of at least one other programming language than the one you want to learn. So if you're completely new to software development, I encourage you to put in the time and learn the basics first by focusing on one programming language and by putting in the work and solving problems using that language. There is no shortcut for that. Once you know one or several programming languages, learning a new language is not that difficult if you do it the right way. So I've now worked as a software developer for more than 15 years. I've worked with C++, Java, Python, TypeScript, and some other programming languages. But what I haven't done yet is working with Go. And yeah, there's always so much talk about Go. Some people love it, some people hate it. Yeah, and I just wanted to give it a go and see for myself how this language performs and how it fits to the problems I want to solve. Now, the most important step when learning a new language for me is really identifying a problem where it makes sense to use that language. So if you just go out, say, okay, I want to learn this or that programming language, you'll find thousands of tutorials. And most of the time they build something, some project. But if this project doesn't resonate with something you want to do or something you want to solve, if, for example, you just built some tic-tac-toe or other little gimmicks, then from my experience, the learning effect is not that good. It's much better if you find some problem that you want to solve and then identify a language you want to learn. And if it's a fit, then you solve that problem with this new language. So you learn by doing. That's the most important step. Now, to figure out if a language is a fit, for example, for Go, I wanted to learn it for some time already, but up until recently, I didn't have a good problem for it. But yeah, recently I thought about solving a problem I had with my photography. So for example, I usually take a lot of photos during my travels. I edit them, and at some point they end up here in this new folder, and I have to tag them. I have to add descriptions so I can then upload them to an agency so they can be sold. Now, since I'm already familiar with Python, I could quickly write a little tool that does the tagging and adding the descriptions for me. But what I wanted is a way to also give this program to others. And I already found in the past in the photography realm, not everybody wants to install Python on his machine to then be able to use some tool. I'd rather like to hand out executable. And yeah, for this, I need a compilable language. And yeah, Go is one. So there was already a bit of a fit. The only thing that was left now was figuring out if some other requirements I had for this program would also be achievable with Go. So the first step in trying to match the programming language I want to learn to the problem I had was just writing down some requirements. And here's a list of some of my functional requirements I had. I wanted to have some configuration file read. I wanted to be able to discover images in some folder, JPEG and TIFF files. Wanted to call an external tool, the EXIF tool, to make changes to the EXIF data, send prompts to the AI, which in my case is OpenAI, but could also be configurable, use other AIs, other LLMs, and then display some list to the user. So there should be some interaction where the user can then select. So very simple UI. And here's some typical flow. And let me quickly show you the current iteration of the program. And as usual, I develop here in a Linux container, Ubuntu, but with Go, for example, also one requirement compiling for Windows, Mac, and Linux was possible to compile for Windows. So I now show you the quick demo here on Windows. So here I have the AI image tagger, and we're just going to run it on a folder I've prepared here with some images and see what it does. So first you see here it found the first image. It's loading the EXIF data from that image. So if there's already some EXIF data contained, it will also use it, send it to the AI together with the image and some prompting I've done. So the AI has some additional information. Here we have the interaction. So it presents the keywords the AI generated to me, and I told it to generate German keywords. This is all configurable. So in this case here, I can now select or deselect some of the keywords which I think are not fitting. And here, for example, I have English one. So it doesn't always work 100%. Some duplication, which I want to remove. And then I confirm the selection. And now it's written to the image and we go on with the next image. So let's just stop this here. Typically, If I do this by hand for more than 100 images, it takes several hours. This makes it all a lot faster, and as I add more and more images, this will be a big helper. So the first step is done. Identify a problem that you want to solve with a new programming language. Now the second step, as a very quick overview for the language, you can use a site called Learn X in Y minutes, and this looks like this for Go. This is something where you can very quickly go through the different features of the language, see how a function is defined, how variables are defined, and this usually takes maybe half an hour if you take your time. And this works if you already know other programming languages, because then you get an overview of features that you already know from other languages and see how they are written or coded in the new language. So here you get a very quick overview, and this will also help you at the first steps when we get to writing the actual code. As an optional step, what you can also do, you can use something like Perplexity and ask it to give you some comparisons to a language you already know. This usually helps me to figure out where are parallels between those and where are the differences. And drawing such parallels helps me to quicker understand a new language. Here you get a nice table showing the differences. For example, here, Python, object-oriented, Go, not object-oriented. This is something which might take some time to get used to, so this is a little different. Also, what we see here, reasons to use Go instead of Python, and here we also have the deployment part. So we get a statically linked binary. This was something I wanted for this tool, so just having a single executable I could hand out. And then some other pros and cons. You can go deeper if you want here. So I find Perplexity very good for such discussions here, figuring out what a new programming language or other technology can do, comparing it to existing ones, and also getting some links to further websites where you can dig a little bit deeper. So this would be step number 3. So the first step, identify the problem you can solve with a new language, then get a quick overview here with Learn Go in Y minutes, then use Perplexity to dig a bit deeper, find some parallels between the programming languages you already know, and then get a tool chain, so get the tools installed. And for this, you can just use the official documentation. So you'll usually find something like here, installing Go. What I like to do, I usually create a dev container where I put the tools. So I work in a Linux environment. This is usually the first step with any programming language I learn or I work with. I create a dev container that has all the tool chains I need. So this is step number 4, and then you're ready to go. Since you already have written out those requirements, the next step will be very easy, because what we can now do, we can use the AI, in my case, Copilot, to help us code the program. It's kind of vibe coding, but instead of just vibing, we want to be very deliberate about what we do and understand each step along the way. So the important thing here is not just letting the AI write all the code. Instead, go step by step, and after each step, analyze the code and understand it. And also ask the AI about what it did and let it explain it. So it's kind of a tutor. Now, the problem with that is sometimes if you don't know a programming language at all and the AI starts hallucinating, you don't know. So here it's really important, make very small steps where the AI can't go wrong, and also check it against the official documentation. Here, for example, in Copilot, if I hadn't had all this code already, I would first ask it, what is a good structure for a Go program? So not just the typical main.go, which I have here under command, but also splitting the program. How do you do this? For example, I came up now with this structure and also looked at some others. So this is something I want to know. Or how do you install modules? So external modules, which you might need. For example, I know I want to do some image manipulations, so resizing, encoding. So I need to install other stuff. So this is something you can directly do here by asking the AI about those. And then you can just start coding. So you create the main.go and have the AI help you write the code. And at first you will get a very big program, which you then try to split up. For example, here you see, even though it's split, it's 126 lines, and there are a lot of steps here involved. But then I split it up, for example, reading the configuration. So this is something very essential, where you define structures and basically have directly the linkage to the actual fields in the JSON file. So this is something, this marshalling and unmarshalling in Go, which you would then not only have the AI write for you, but try to understand it. So how does a decoder work for those JSON, and what happens if a field is not found? So this is different to other languages where you might have null values. So there are many things which you want to look into. And for example, here for this exif.go, this is how you call external commands. So here again, the AI will tell you how to do this, but then you need to understand how it's done. And you'll also run into problems. For example, here, if you want to have for Windows, if I deliver a package, I want to also just tell somebody, hey, download exif tool, put it in the same folder. Calling something from the same folder per default is not allowed here. So you have to explicitly set this here if you want Go to call this. Otherwise, there will be an error. All such stuffs you will run into, and then you solve those. And by solving such little problems and also digging deep, this is how you really learn how the language works. So as you write all this code or use the AI to help you write this code, what you should always do is also go to the standard library, look at the documentation for the different packages that the AI will use. So for example, it will at some point just suggest here the image package to do some basic image transformations, and you'll end up using the format package to print stuff on the console. All that stuff that the AI suggests, don't just accept it. Here, the goal is not just vibing something and quickly writing code. Here, the goal is to learn something. You can use the AI to help you with that. And yeah, you try to continuously improve the program. So that's the last step. Try to refactor the code, structure it better, make it more maintainable. Use solid patterns where it makes sense, so clean coding, and try to improve the code from the first sketch that you'll get by using the AI. And then also, as you test the code, you'll want to implement additional features. You have to fix bugs. This is how you learn. And there's also one very important thing which I forgot when I talked about installing the required toolchain. One of the first things you need to do, or that I try to do when I learn a new language, not just installing the toolchain, make sure to also install the debugger and learn how to run it. So for example, in Visual Code, you usually can create some launch configuration, and if the debugger is installed, you can then step through the code. So this is also very important in understanding a new programming language. And this brings me to the end of this little video. This is how I learn programming languages. And most important thing, I said it a lot of times, but I want to say it one more time here. Find a problem which you will solve along the way while learning. So not just learning something by watching tutorials and then not using the language for some time. You will have forgotten a lot of it when you then at some point need to use it. So it's really important to directly use it and continue to use it. Okay, hope you found this interesting. In the comments, just let me know how you learn new programming languages, and let's just exchange a few ideas. See you.